The new market numbers are in. Let's have this needed conversation. Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Mike's Market Update. My name is Mike Rennick. I'm your host for this video. This might take a little bit longer than normal. We've got lots to talk about, and I'm going to jump through some of my slides and charts a little bit differently. What I want to focus, and there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of turbulence in the national market right now with regards to inflation, stock market volatility. Over the next few weeks, and we're going to do more than monthly updates going forward because of the changes, we're going to address that. But right now, what I'd like to talk about is the supply side, the amount of listings. Until all of the turmoil has hit, and I'll use that word on purpose, it really was a lack of listings that was causing the market that was out of kilter or out of balance in terms of buyers and sellers. So let's take a look at that now. I'll address some of the other points, but we'll come back. So when we look on this chart that we have in front of me, I show that for the month of May, sales are down 24% from last year. The number of pendings are down 13%. If we look at price and we look at listings and things like that, I want to come down to the bottom of the chart where I have the circle, and that's months of inventory. We saw last month when I reported in April an increase over the year before. When we look at what we have for this month over last year, we're up 62%. And this data is Sarasota, Manatee County, and it's on a year-to-year basis. So that's just one way to look at the data, but I want to go deeper. When we go to the chart now where we have all the green bars, I want to focus on the light green. And the light green are the number of listings, the number of units that are for sale today in these two counties. And we see since back in January, it has started to slide up from the higher 1100s to the 1400s, and we're up in the 1800s. So that's a good news story. If we can fix the supply side, then we can address the other things that are going on in the market. So the light green bars is where I'd like to focus in here in terms of the numbers. When we move to the next chart, and what we're talking about now here is price, we look at prices moved a little bit, but still kind of stable. So the fact that inventory is coming up, price isn't significantly impacted yet. We'll come back each month and we'll update that and talk about that. But when we look right here, right now, days on the market, and we look within where I've circled, the days on the market are staying pretty constant. We're not seeing a fluctuation there. So when we put all this together with one more input, and that has to do with months of inventory, and take a look on this chart where I've got it circled, where months of inventory have increased since December at a half a month, up to right now we're almost at 0.8 a month, and that is a significant increase. So everything locally is pointing to the fact that we are getting more listings. And what that means as we go forward is that hopefully we'll become back into a much more balanced market, and it'll be more fair for both buyers and sellers overall, and we'll keep a healthy outlook. And I personally believe we will, even with the volatility on the national scene. We'll talk a little bit more about this. I'm asked every day, are we headed to a housing bubble? Many of the national experts are suggesting we are not, and I also agree. Let's take a look at this chart here where we see some increases, we see some valleys after 2006 and some increases up to 2021. What this chart is showing right here is simply the fact that the market, other than the dip that we had in 2008, and we're all aware of that, prices will continue to go up. So what that means is overall we have a healthy market. And when we look at the historical perspective, it suggests that may continue. Now we all know what happened in 2008. Mortgages were oversubscribed. Home equity debt was through the roof, no pun intended with that. But there was a lot of challenges in the market. People were approved on mortgages with teaser rates. That's not happening right now. That's a good news story in terms of the stability of this market going forward. Let's look at the next chart, forbearance numbers. They are edging downward. These are folks that reached out and asked for help in terms of paying their mortgage payments. That's falling. That's a good sign from a perspective of, are we going to continue to have a healthy market? So let's look at the next chart. We've got a quote from Daniel Hale. He's the chief economist of Realtor.com. And I quote, "We have learned from history that prices can fall. The more important question is if it's going to happen right now." That's hard to say, according to Daniel. And let's take a look at this thing and go a little bit farther. The next chart, titled Lending Standards, nothing like early 2000s. This shows the amount of risk that the homeowners took versus the borrower the banks took in terms of these teaser loans and things like that. So right now, points to a good sign. There's much more orange on this chart as we go forward. If we move to the next one, foreclosures are at an all-time low, and you can see that as they peaked in around 2010, and they're significantly lower in 2022. All of these signs point to a stronger market. The next chart, lending standards are tighter since the crash. Look at the graph since 2008 in terms of where we are in loaning, allowing mortgages to people with a credit rating below 620. Banks have tightened up. Private lenders have tightened up. Next chart, mortgage debt is not a challenge. We see it significantly lower below when we look at the amount of debt out there versus the value of the homes. When we take a look at moving forward, let's look at what the experts are suggesting. So the estimated home price performance, 2022 through 2026, each year shows an increase. When you put the economists together and you average things out, overall, everyone is predicting that prices will continue not as significantly advance in 23 and 4 and 5 and 6, but still at healthy rates. With the volatility of the stock market, that may be a good sign there. Cumulative house appreciation by 2026, the optimists are suggesting it could be as high as 46% between now and 2026. The pessimists are still saying a 10.3% increase. All of that good news. Home price forecasts for 2022, and we pulled together a lot of data from a lot of folks, but they're all suggesting for the balance of this year, we'll continue to see prices rise. As we move forward, let me just step back from the charts and share this. There's a lot of factors that go into this, but right now the market remains strong. Interest rates are moving up, I understand that, but there's a whole lot of cash in this area. And even though interest rates are sometimes around 5%, maybe a little bit higher, historically, that's still relatively cheap money. So it's something to keep in mind. So we're going to continue to look at this thing. Right now, from my perspective, locally here on Florida's West Coast, I see a market continuing to be strong. I do see some buyers that have fallen out, but I see supply side coming up. When you mix that together, we move towards a more balanced market. A balanced market is a healthy market. If we're in a buy-side advantage or we're in a sell-side advantage, that's not sustainable. That's not something we can do in the long run. So I will keep coming back with updates. There's more work to be done. Your broker needs to understand what's happening, not just on the higher area, the macro level. We need to go down to the subdivision that you're looking to buy or sell because those markets are different, and I have the data and I can help you with that. Please feel free to call. My name is Mike Rennick. My direct cell is 941-400-8735. We're going to continue to watch the market, I promise you.